Members of the public and members of the council, please be upstanding for the Worshipful, the Mayor of Gedling.
Good. Thank you. Right, good to see everybody here this evening. Before we start, we have in the past few months lost one of our ex-councillors, Bob Tate, who probably was still a councillor up until 2011. So what we're going to do is have a minute's silence in honour of Bob. So, thank you. I don't know if anybody knew Bob or was around. Is anybody wish to say anything on Bob's behalf? I can add that in addition to being a councillor, he was quite a sportsman, and if we've got any Notts County fans here, he did play a number of games for the first team for Notts County, I think for a couple of seasons, and was a local footballer at what was Arnold Town when the Arnold Town pitch was local. So I think somebody would like to say, yes, Sandra. Councillor Barnes.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to say that Peter and I knew Bob. It's really good fun, and he used to do a Burns night every year, you know, for the mayor, and it used to be really funny. And he ended up at the end in Coppice Lodge, which was awfully sad. I mean, he was a really nice gentleman, and he was very proud of his Scottish heritage, yeah. And his family, you know, really nice family, and it's such a shame. But we went to his funeral, yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the privilege of meeting Bob Tate on a number of occasions because he was resident at Coppice Lodge at the same time as my father was. Absolutely lovely gentleman. Always had a good word to say, and we had a few chats. So I'd certainly like to send my condolences to the family and hope that his memory will be a blessing for them.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Are there any more comments? Yes, John.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just I'm probably being one of the older ones there, served with him, and although he's politically opposite, he was an absolute gentleman. And as we've often said, if you've got many councillors in this chamber, you'll find that Gedling runs through them, no matter of what political opinion they are. But he was a good servant. He was a good servant for Arnold, and a true gentleman.
Thank you. Any more? No. Item 1, thought for the day. My chaplain, Father Philip, now will have a thought for the day and a reading. Thank you.
I'd like to just share with you a short extract from the letter St. Paul wrote to the Colossians. He says this: "You are God's chosen race, his saints. He loves you. You should be clothed in sincere compassion, in kindness and humility, gentleness and patience. Bear with one another. Forgive each other as soon as a quarrel begins, for the Lord has forgiven you. And over all of these clothes, keep them together and complete them. Put on love, and may the peace of Christ reign in your hearts. Let this message find a home with you. Teach each other and advise each other in all wisdom, and never say or do anything except giving thanks to God through him. And so let us pray. In our world, there are decisions to be made, countries to be governed, local communities to be led, and people to be honoured. We place them before you in our hearts as we meet in council. In our neighbourhood and our homes, there are celebrations and tragedies, times of hope and weariness, times of tenderness and parenting. We place them before you as we meet in council. In our hospitals, there are many in pain, many who are fearful, many who have lost hope. There are many whose skills bring hope, healing, and confidence. We place them before you as we meet in council. And in our United Kingdom, there are many who seek confidence. There are many who strive for the future. There are many who rely on us here in council. And so we place them before you as we meet in council. God our Father, may your glory be revealed in us as we seek your wisdom for the good of all, our nation and our borough. Amen.
Thank you, Father. Item 2, apologies. Yes. Yep. Can I ask the relevant members to confirm if there are any apologies, please?
Can I go first?
Yes, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've just heard from Councillor Payne that he has had a sudden family bereavement and will not be able to attend this evening as planned. Can I submit his apologies alongside those of Councillor Robinson Payne? My condolences go out to both councillors. I have also heard from Councillor Sam Smith today that none of the Conservative members are able to attend because of pre-arranged commitments that existed before the date of this meeting was changed. Please accept apologies from all 9 Conservative members. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, indeed. We have heard that Councillor Robinson Payne and Councillor Payne had sadly experienced a close family bereavement, so we wish to send our condolences to them. Also, apologies, please, from Councillor Paul Feeney, Councillor Alex Scroggy, and Councillor Catherine Fox. Thank you.
Councillor Hughes.
All present and correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other absences? No. Thank you, and they are noted. Item 3, just the Mayor announcements. Just to give you a flavour of some of the Mayor events that I've been attending over the past few months, of which there are quite a few actually, but I'll just give you a flavour. My first event was Fox Hill Community Centre, who for a couple of hours welcomed me and my consorts to a tea and cake afternoon with a variety of stalls raising funds. We were only there 2 hours and they raised £500 for the Mayor's charity, which is for Parkinson's. Also to say thank you to the Good Shepherd Church, where the Mayor's service took place approximately a month ago. Again, the collection was given to the Mayor's charity and we raised £500 there as well. So good start in the first month or so. One of the other events we attended was of the Mercian Regiment at Cryche Head. Those of you that know Cryche Head, that stands out. We attended, it's been my second time of attending. We had a great day. The weather was very kind to us and there was a full turnout commemorating soldiers that have been lost over the years. So 2 great events. Another great event took place on the 4th of July, the election, and we had 2 MPs to congratulate that are in our council. So congratulations there, so well done. And We look forward to seeing you in full flow. Thank you. Item 4, to approve the minutes of the meetings held on the 17th of April and the 22nd of May 2024. Councillor Clark to move.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just before I do that, to pass on my congratulations to both new members of Parliament. And I'm sure, well, I know that they're virtually locked in there. I suppose it's a bit like the Tower of London, having not been locked in the Tower of London, but they're there for a substantial amount of time, and wish them well in that. Disappointed that there's no Tories here tonight, not even one to show some sign, but they've disappeared anyway, so I suppose that was to be expected. You just mentioned in your remarks about the flats down near Tesco's in Carlton, and I mean I attended that as well. Those people down there who are not wealthy people, but they really go for it when they're fundraising. It was not only just a nice afternoon, it was just the sort of banter that was about. And I said at the end of the day, Parkinson's are now £500 richer. And also, it's just to mention Father Philip's Church, which is absolutely staggering in there to see it. And some of the flowers there the other day, I did congratulate a lady who had done some of the flowers. I think we ought to make something bigger of it, because it's what they call, as The Guardian says, brutalistic concrete. And it's absolutely stunning when you see in the light catches at the window in the back. And for those in this room who have never been in it, I suggest you take 10 minutes out or half an hour or more and just have a look at it, because it is an excellent, and we should be proud of that for that. Anyway, there's those few remarks. I'll move the minutes, item 4, to approve the minutes of meetings held on 17th of April and the 22nd of May. I'll move those.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will second, and I will also offer my congratulations to our 2 new MPs. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Any abstentions? Right, thank you. That's carried. Item 5, declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Thank you. I'll move on to the next item. Item 6, petitions under procedural rule 7.8.
There are none, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll move on to the next item. Item 7, questions asked by the public under procedural rule 7.7.
Mr. Mayor, we have received 2 questions, and I believe 1 questioner is in attendance this evening.
Thank you. Can Matthew Francis ask his question, please? Thank you.
At the budget meeting of full council on 6th of March 2024, the Deputy Leader of the Council, Michael Payne, stated clearly that the administration at Nottinghamshire County Council had increased council tax by the maximum level permitted every year since 2017. He was given the opportunity to provide clarification and/or correction numerous times by Councillor Adams and also on one occasion by Councillor Sam Smith, but it would appear he failed to do so. Contrary to Councillor Payne's assertions, it has subsequently been ascertained by myself through an information request through Nottinghamshire County Council and a full review of the budget reports, which are all a matter of public record, that the Conservative leadership at Nottinghamshire County Council have for almost every financial year since 2017-2018 increased the main council tax precept levy by less than the maximum permitted amount, saving the residents of Nottinghamshire in that period millions of pounds in council tax charges. When challenged on his assertion, Councillor Payne stated in writing, and I quote, "There is an element of subjectivity to the word maximum." Based on this information and in the interests of honesty, integrity and accountability, does the Deputy Leader of the Council and the new, congratulations, Member of Parliament for Gedling, wish to correct the record so that the residents of Gedling Borough are in possession of the facts?
Thank you, Francis. We do have a response. Councillor Payne has considered the question and has decided there is nothing further to add from what he said at the meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the other questioner is not present this evening, so I will read out the other question. Does the Council think the symbolism of spending large sums of money at Gedling Country Park while letting parks in Carlton and the Carlton Valley decay show that this Council prioritises what looks good in political leaflets and in their Connect, I believe that should be Contact magazine, rather than providing some of our most deprived communities with the services and respect they deserve.
To answer the question?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I could make a comment about somebody not being here, but I won't. I'll move straight back to the answer, which is Gedling Country Park was developed on the former Gedling Colliery site. It's our flagship visitor attraction and a significant green lung in the borough. The topography of the park offers considerable views over Nottinghamshire and has established itself as a wildlife haven, having been granted local nature reserve status in 2018. In terms of the park's development, we have a children's playground, cafe, 1899, 2 viewing platforms, some of which were funded through external grants for anyone listening who hasn't been to the site. I would certainly recommend a visit, and that was good use of European money as well. In terms of Carlton, you will be aware of our 2 most recent announcements. Firstly, our proposal for a multi-million-pound investment into a new Carlton Leisure Centre, community wellbeing centre with state-of-the-art facilities. This will benefit all residents of the borough, and particularly those residing in Carlton and the Carlton Valley area. And secondly, we have launched a consultation on how to spend the 20 million awarded through the long-term plan for towns' government funding for the Greater Carlton area. I do hope you and others will respond to this consultation, as it provides a real opportunity to directly influence investment in assets such as parks and open spaces in Carlton and Carlton Valley area. And I stress that, Mr. Mayor, we've had 1 meeting up to now. Sir John Peace, who's chairing the board, we nearly actually went on quite a bit. We nearly missed an England game, but and it was good because there was only 4 politicians there, including myself, are actually going to be on it, and the rest were made up of local people who put in to bid for it. There were other people who have got economic designs and thoughts and things like that. Hell of a lot of talent. 25 people there. We've got this 20 million. I've said to hope it comes because we don't know. There was a lot of money dished out at the time by the previous government, but it's really working well. It is a non-political setup. This is looking best for long-term economic development and the future health of people in Gedling. So with that, that's the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. I'll now move on to the next item, item 8. Questions asked by members under Procedural Rule 7.9, and we have 2 questions from members. Councillor Whiting, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Will Gedling Borough Council consider allowing the generation of electricity through onshore wind on land owned by the council in light of the lifting of the de facto ban by the government?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Whiting, for the question. I'm sure, like me, you will welcome the new Labour government's launch of Great British Energy this week, which puts renewable energy, carbon reduction and energy security at the heart of government. Gedling Borough Council is committed to identifying opportunities for renewable energy, including wind, and utilising our assets. We have an excellent track record for doing so, and in the first term of a Labour administration, solar panels were installed at the Civic Centre and other council buildings. The solar panel installation at our Green Flag award-winning Country Park, which produces enough energy for around 1,500 homes, is another key example. Future projects would align with our carbon management strategy and the emerging Greater Nottingham Strategic Plan, which will promote and encourage low-carbon energy. Proposals for onshore wind and other forms of renewable energy generation will still be subject to planning permission to carefully consider the impacts, unless they are small scale and benefit from permitted development. Finally, Mr. Mayor, I would direct Councillor Whiting to the Council's carbon management strategy, and in particular to section 4.3, which looks at expanding local low-carbon energy generation in the borough, including the investigation of wind-generated energy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. Councillor Whiting, do you have a supplementary question you would like to ask?
Briefly, if I may. And can I join Councillor Hollingsworth in welcoming nationalised energy and welcoming the lifting of this crazy ban on onshore wind? And can I also congratulate her and the council and everyone who's behind the solar panels and everything else, and the carbon management strategy is very good. We had a detailed look at it at the last Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and I welcome all the steps being taken there. Councillor Hollingsworth mentioned the solar panels at Gedling Country Park, which are not only generating low carbon energy, but I actually think look really nice when when you're walking around there. So I wonder, would Councillor Hollingsworth be open, subject to planning permission, to looking at a project which might bring some wind generation to Gedling Country Park as well?
Mr Mayor, I refer Councillor Whiting to the answer that I gave previously.
Thank you. Councillor Ellis, do you wish to? No. Oh, no, never. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Whiting. Right, moving on to the next item. Item 9, reports and recommendations from the Executive of Committee. Sorry,
Chair, another question.
Oh, is there another question? Sorry. My apologies. Councillor Whiting, I think you have another question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Sorry.
There have been a number of reports of antisocial behaviour on and around Colwick Rec over a long period of time, including suspected drug dealing, antisocial car cruising, amongst other activities. Can we please have CCTV installed to cover the car park of the Rec and deter such behaviour?
Councillor Ellis, would you wish to answer that question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And before I reply, can I just say that I'm pleased to hear that Councillor Whiting's son has been discharged from hospital and he's back to his normal self. Just turning to the question, members will recall that a public space protection order has been in place since June 2023 to address nuisance car cruising in Trent Valley. The area covered by the order includes the Colwick Recreation Ground and the roads nearby. The PSPO prohibits a range of antisocial behaviours and includes penalties for breaching. The police operation to enforce the PSPO, Operation Triple Fin, has been active since the order was introduced, and as I understand, a variety of offences have been prosecuted, and everything I have suggests it's a successful initiative. On CCTV, last week the Cabinet received a report on the annual review of CCTV and approved changes to the CCTV policy. The Council has to have regard to the Surveillance Camera Code of Practice published by the Surveillance Camera Commissioner. Recognising that overt surveillance systems can be intrusive to the privacy of individuals, our policy states that the use of CCTV must be necessary, proportionate and adequate for the specific purpose they are there to address. The Council has a robust system for considering the introduction of new CCTV cameras in the borough to ensure good governance and solid justification for the introduction of new cameras. Any proposals need to be evidence-based and justified. Until this question, Colwick Recreation Ground has not been identified as a possible site for CCTV. Officers in partnership with the neighbour policing team are reviewing the current picture on crime and ASB in Colwick Rec and the surrounding areas. If the level of crime and ASB are sufficiently serious, a problem-solving approach will be adopted. CCTV could be part of the response, but it's not necessarily the first action that would or should be taken. The question also refers to suspected drug dealing. The advice on this remains the same, that anyone who has suspicions of drug dealing anywhere across the borough should report this to the police using 101 or online. I'm told that the police take all such reports seriously, and even if there's insufficient evidence in one report, it can contribute to the overall intelligence picture. This council has an extensive CCTV system which is invaluable for preventing and detecting crime and ASB. Our system is well managed and operated and meets the tests of proportionality and security of data. We intend to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Councillor Whiting, do you have a supplementary question you wish to ask? No. Okay.
No, thank you.
Move on to the next item, item 9. Reports and recommendations from the Executive or a Committee Procedural Rule 710. The next 6 items have been forwarded from Cabinet or other committees, and we will deal with each in turn. Firstly, item 9A, flexible use of capital receipts, strategy 2024-25. The recommendation is on page 37 of your document. Councillor Clark to move and Councillor Holdingworth to second, please.
Move, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
Seconded, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Would anybody like to speak on this matter? Councillor Clark to close?
Just formally close it.
Yep, thank you. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? Any abstentions? No. Thank you. Received. Thank you. And that's carried. Item 9B, Budget Outturn and Carry Forwards 2023 to 24. The recommendation is on page 52 of your document. I would like to bring to the attention of the members that only recommendation D is here for discussion tonight, and that is to approve the method of financing the 2023/24 capital expenditure, which includes making determinations required for minimum revenue provision. Do you have any proposers for that?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And there are some changes to it, actually, to the printed, your big document. So I'll just read it out. So the first paragraph, which states current wording for amended highlight. Council received discretionary housing payments of £184,800, which has been distributed in accordance with eligibility criteria. The Council also made provision to alleviate the impact of some of the pressures for the most financially vulnerable residents and delivered £107,400 of hardship relief to the Council taxpayers who are in receipt of Council Tax Reduction Scheme, CTRS, support and additional £214,700 to care leavers. The next part of it is, it should state the amended item is highlighted, which is on here, which I'm going to read to you. The Council received discretionary housing payments of £184,000, got that 800, distributed in accordance with the eligibility criteria. Also made a provision to impact some pressures for the most financially vulnerable residents. Delivered support of £107,400 to care leavers and £214 in the hardship relief to council taxpayers who are in receipt of Council Tax Reduction Scheme. So I'll move that.
Thank you. Yes.
Seconded, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Would anybody like to speak on this? No? So, Councillor Clark to close?
This just shows that we're just keeping an eye on it and trying to help in which way we can, and which is admirable, because there aren't many councils that are actually looking at that. People are struggling and still struggling, even though the sun may be out today, and it's not out on everybody's garden if they've got a garden. So I think where we can help, we can, but this is the limits we're working in. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? Any abstentions? No? Okay, thank you. That's carried. Moving on to item 9C, Annual Treasury Activity Report 2023 to 24. The recommendation is on your document on page 97. Councillor Clark to move and Councillor Hollingworth to second, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Move the recommendation, which is on page 97.
Seconded, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak on this matter? No? Okay. Close on that one, Councillor Clark.
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Please show all those in favour. Thank you. Anyone against? No. Any abstentions? No. Thank you very much. That's carried. Next item, item 9D, Council Productivity Plan. The recommendation is in your document on page 117. Proposers, Councillor Clark and Councillor Hollingsworth.
Move the recommendation on 117. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seconded, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Would anybody like to speak on this matter? No. Thank you, everybody. Councillor Clark to close that one?
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favour, please show. Thank you. Anyone against? No, thank you. Any abstentions? No, thank you. Thank you, that's carried. Next item, item 9E, appointment of co-opted member of the Audit Committee. The recommendation is in your supplementary pack. Councillor Clark to move and Councillor Barnes to second, please.
Thank you. Move the recommendations, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I wish to second the appointment of the co-opted member of the Audit Committee, Jonathan Corston, and I look forward to seeing him at our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody would like to speak on this matter? No, thank you. Councillor Clark to close.
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Anyone against? No, thank you. Any abstentions? No, thank you very much. That's carried. Are we on the right one, 9F? Yes. Item 9F, recruitment of independent person and reserve independent person. The recommendation is in your document on page 139. Councillor Clark to move and Councillor Holdingworth to second, please.
We have a recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
Seconded, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Would anybody like to speak on this matter? No? Councillor Clark to close?
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay, show of hands. All those in favour? Thank you. Anyone against? No. Any abstentions? No, thank you. That's carried. Item 10, the appointment of independent remuneration panel member. The recommendation is in your document on page 143. Councillor Rachel Ellis to move, Councillor Elwood to second, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I am pleased to move this recommendation. I would like to say that we had some excellent candidates, and I'm sure Mr Chowdhury will make an excellent member of the Independent Remuneration Panel.
Thank you. Councillor Elwood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Happy to second the recommendation and reserve the right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody like to speak further on this matter? Yes, Councillor Elwood.
It's really just, well, firstly, I'd like to, it's the first opportunity that our group has had to congratulate Councillor Welsh and congratulate Councillor Payne on their election success as parliamentary, as our new MPs. So congratulations, and we look forward to working with both of you in your new roles. But coming back to the reports that we have here, just a correction really, because at the meeting, Councillor Elliott and Councillor Hughes weren't actually there. It was Councillor Ellis and myself who were on the interview panel. So just wanted to correct that for the records, really. But other than that, nothing else to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Elwood. Councillor Rachel Ellis to close.
Thank you, formally.
Thank you. All those in favour show, please. Thank you. Anyone against? No. Any abstentions? Thank you. That's carried. Item 11. Changes to the Constitution following the management restructure. The recommendation can be found on page 145 of your documents. Councillor Clark, Councillor Hollingworth.
Move the recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
Seconded, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone would like to speak on this matter? No, thank you. Councillor Clark to close.
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, show of hands again. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Anybody against? No, thank you. Any abstentions? No, thank you. That's carried. Thank you very much. Item 12. Comments under Procedural Rule 7.11. There are 11 sets of minutes on this agenda. If anybody would like to ask any questions or make any comment about any of the minutes, would you please indicate to the page number that you are particularly referring to speak on. First minute A to F. Any comments or questions on those range of meetings? No, thank you. Minutes for G to K. Any comments or questions? Yes, thank you. Councillor Duncan, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before I say anything on this, I'd like to add my congratulations to the two new MPs and say how good it is to see that the Liberal Democrats are the official opposition in Gedling now, as indeed we are in Parliament. Back to the long-term plan for Carlton, page 189, long-term plan for Carlton. I know it's been mentioned before. I do hope the funding for this will continue now that there's been a change of administration. It is funding that we do desperately need in Carlton. I do object to it being referred to as the long-term plan for Carlton, because it isn't just Carlton. It is Carlton, Gedling, Burton Joyce, Colwick, Netherfield, Bulker and a bit of the city. So, I mean, it is actually feasible, in theory, that Carlton might not get any of the money. And to refer to the whole thing as Carlton is just a complete misnomer. But yes, as I say, I look forward very much to finding out that it will continue under the new administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Unless there are any other comments, I'll move on to the next item, which is item 13, motions under procedural rule 7.12. There is one motion that, at the front of the agenda pack that you should all have. Can Councillor Whiting propose, please? Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I start, can I congratulate Michelle and Michael and send my best wishes to Michael and Councillor Payne and Councillor Robinson-Payne this evening. Mr. Mayor, can I start by thanking yourself, the Monitoring Officer, Democratic Services and the Chief Exec for their assistance in bringing this motion to the agenda this evening. The scenes which have been unfolding on our TV screens on a nightly basis for 9 months now are almost too much for us to stand. Relentless bombing in Gaza has left 40,000 people confirmed dead. 20,000 of these are thought to be children. A recent letter in The Lancet says the figure could be perhaps 186,000 because of the enormous number of people buried dead under the rubble. I don't know why Councillor Wilkinson's laughing. It's not a laughing matter. 35% of buildings in Gaza have been completely destroyed. A child in Gaza is dying every 10 minutes. During the course of what I'm about to say, another child will be dead. More parents grieving, more best friends left lonely, more hopes and dreams shattered. The media continues to refer to what's happening as Israel's war on Hamas. But what's happening in Gaza is not a war. On one side, a nuclear-armed state, one of the most sophisticated militaries in the world, backed initially unconditionally and enthusiastically by the US, the UK, and other Western countries, though that's changed as the unfolding horror has become clear. On the other side, mainly civilians torn from their homes, struggling to survive, waiting for death. I wish I had time this evening to tell you some of the stories of Gaza that I've heard. To tell you about people like Saeed. Saeed's about 10. His family is hit by an airstrike. He digs his younger brother, Mohammed, out of the rubble. Mohammed is dead, so are his parents. Saeed is still covered in dust as his brother is laid out in a body bag. Adults tried to move Saeed away, but he tells them that he wants to be buried. He wants to be buried with his brother. This happened in February, and nobody knows if Saeed is still alive. Then there's Ghazi, a 5-year-old girl whose house is bombed. There's limited medical supplies, so a makeshift operation stopped her from dying. But when she gets infected, doctors have to amputate her leg with no anaesthetic available. The pictures of Ghazi, just one of hundreds of children who have had amputations with no anaesthetic, lying in agony. The greatest fear for any parent is not being able to comfort our children. But you do not need to be a parent or even know a child to feel this pain. You simply have to be a human being. Snipers shooting children is not self-defense. Massacres of people trying to get scarce flour to feed their families is not self-defense. Every time international law is broken and the world watches, we lose more of our humanity. Perhaps the most natural reaction to these scenes is to switch off. But the lesson from history is that we must not switch off from suffering. We must continue to speak out. Bombing ambulances is a war crime. Murdering children is a war crime. Attacking hospitals is a war crime. Cutting off food, water and electricity during an all-out siege is a war crime. We do not only have a moral duty to speak out, but Britain has played perhaps a unique role in this situation. Promising the Palestinian homeland to another people with the Balfour Declaration in 1917, which set in motion the apartheid state that we see today, through to continuing to sell Israel the arms which have sustained the occupation and are enabling this genocide. And be in no doubt that this is a genocide. When Volker Turk resigned as the UN Human Rights Commissioner in October, he said this: "This is a textbook case of genocide. The European ethno-nationalist settler colonial project in Palestine has entered its final stage towards the expedited destruction of the last remnants of indigenous Palestinian life in Palestine." Society in Gaza, Mr. Mayor, is on the brink of collapse. There is virtually no healthcare provision for 2 million people. Communications blackouts are regular and long. Medical Aid for Palestinians says that between October and June, there were more than 460 attacks on healthcare facilities in Gaza. 100 ambulances have been bombed, often with injured people on board. 1 in 40 healthcare workers in Gaza are dead. They have been killed. At the start of October, there were 36 fully functioning hospitals in Gaza. Today, there are 0. The head of UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund, said children are increasingly at risk from preventable diseases and lack of food and water. Cases of diarrhea are running amongst children at a rate thought to be more than 70,000 per week. Now, like most of us, I've knocked on a few doors in my time. We've all knocked on a lot recently. So imagining knocking on a resident's door in your ward and they tell you that their child is facing amputation without anaesthetic, that 50 members of their family have been murdered in one night. Would we show them empathy? Children in Colic have the same dreams as children in Khan Yunis. Parents in Rafah grieve just like those in Arnold. Supporting and passing this motion this evening gives us the chance to demonstrate our shared humanity. We will not be able to tell future generations we didn't know what was happening. I'll just briefly run through the actions that Councillor Hughes and myself are proposing in this motion. Firstly, recognising the reverberations of events around the borough and further afield, thanking community workers for supporting those who are grieving, those who have experienced anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, and thanking those who have committed to the humanitarian response. I think that shows the strength of our community in Gedling. We say that Gedling stands ready to welcome Palestinians seeking refuge in the UK, as we did with Ukrainians, and I hope that that's something that can be urgently looked at, and to look at how events can be remembered in Gedling as we do with Srebrenica and other tragedies from the past. And to look at how the council can support the community as events continue to unfold. I know a lot of that work does go on, and I think we would all want it to continue. And to request that the Chief Exec writes to David Lammy, as outlined in the motion, supporting a ceasefire and the release of hostages. A ceasefire, Mr. Mayor, is supported by 71% of the British public, by the UN, 153 member states, aid agencies including Oxfam, ActionAid, International Rescue Committee, Save the Children, the Red Cross, the Red Crescent, the Pope, the Archbishop of Canterbury, the trade union movement, the TUC, Unison, Unite, BMA, FBU, RMT, CWU, ASLEF, NEU, UCU, PCS, NASU, WT and IWGB. Councils, including Oxford, Newham, Preston, Nottingham and Sheffield, have all passed similar motions. Now, the number of hostages still thought to be in Gaza, around 80. Their suffering of them, their families, friends and communities is unimaginable. Taking and holding civilian hostages is a clear breach of international law, and they must be immediately released. Only a just peace which gives security to everyone in the region will be lasting. A peace which ends Israeli occupation and apartheid. A peace which ends settlerist violence and expansion, where Israeli and Palestinian children can dream together of their future, where parents can enjoy their children and families can grow old together. This might seem like idealism, but humanity has overcome these obstacles before. Now, some people will be watching this and say it's not up to Gedling to get involved in international affairs. Yes, we were elected to deal with bin collections, parks and leisure centres, and I know people in Colic and elsewhere are concerned about local issues. That's why I ask so many questions about them at these meetings. But our residents also care deeply about what's happening around the world. We can walk and chew gum at the same time, as they say. There are also other conflicts raging around the world. Sudan, Syria, Ukraine, people are being killed. The Uyghurs are suffering in China, women in Afghanistan. And I will work with any councillor who wishes to bring about peace and an end to suffering. You might also be thinking that this motion is symbolic and won't make any difference. Maybe so. But the Ukraine flag, which seems to have been taken down, the Ukraine flag which is flying outside this building is symbolic. The motion which some of you passed in February 2022 made no difference. The minute silence we have to remember Srebrenica is symbolic. We do a lot of symbolic things because symbolism matters. This is about sending a message to our residents of the kind of world we want to see. It's also not true to say that this started on October the 7th.
Can I just remind you, Councillor Whiting, you have 30 seconds left.
Thank you. I'm coming to a close. Israel has been occupying Palestinian land for decades, and the ICJ ruled this week that this is a de facto annexation. In moving this motion, Mr Mayor, I want to pay tribute to the residents of Gedling, Nottinghamshire and around the world who have taken to the streets over the last few months to call for peace. Together, our movement has dragged governments around the world into supporting a ceasefire. I send my solidarity to all those who are grieved by what's happening and repeat my call for calm heads and peace-filled hearts to prevail, for a peaceful Gaza and a free Palestine. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hughes? Yes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First of all, I will add my congratulations to Councillors Payne and Welsh on their success at the recent elections. But to go on to the motion, when Councillor Russell, or Councillor Whiting, I should say, begging your pardon, contacted me to ask if I was prepared to second this motion, my immediate reaction was to agree to do so even before I'd read it. Why? Because these things need to be debated, even if we disagree with them, because that is the democratic principle. Which is why, Mr Mayor, I'm very pleased that you have chosen to allow this debate to go forward. You have followed that very democratic principle. As it happens, I most wholeheartedly agree with and support this, and therefore I will be formally seconding the motion. This war has been going on for 9 months, already by far the longest conflict in Israel's history. Yet they haven't brought the hostages home, and ironically, some will have died as a result of Israeli actions. I'm not going to dwell on the statistics. They are horrifying enough and speak for themselves. But we mustn't forget that in addition to the hundreds of thousands of Gazans who are suffering, there are thousands of Israelis suffering the anguish of not knowing whether their loved ones are still alive or whether their bodies lie buried under the rubble. The conflict also has far wider ramifications as tensions rise in the Middle East and here in the UK. Both anti-Semitism and Islamophobia are on the rise. Hate crimes against both Jews and Muslims are on the rise. Community tensions are increasing. And we mustn't think that Gedling is somehow immune, even though we have relatively small Jewish and Muslim communities. The only thing that will end the suffering, the only thing that will bring the hostages home, and the only thing that will ease tensions is an immediate ceasefire. The previous humanitarian pauses resulted in more hostages being returned to their loved ones than Israeli military action has done. Peace and diplomacy are, in the long term, always more effective than war. History has taught us that. I hope that all councillors will agree with and support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Would anybody like to speak on this matter? Yes, Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The Labour Group would like to bring an amendment forward to this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Welch, did you wish to say anything at this point? I know you raised your hand. No, thank you. Do people need more time to read through this at this moment? You know, Councillor Whiting, do you wish to take an opportunity for an adjournment? 2 minutes.
2 minutes, Mr Mayor, please.
Okay. 2 minute adjournment. Stretch your legs if you wish. Do we have a seconder for that? Can we have a seconder for the adjournment? Yeah, thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. A 2 minute adjournment.
Okay, so restart.
We're going to restart the meeting. The 2-minute adjournment has been completed. Do we have this amendment to the proposal accepted?
We're happy to accept the amendment, Mr Mayor.
Okay, do we have a seconder on that?
Happy to accept it, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor Hughes, thank you. Would anybody wish to comment on the motion and the amendment? Yes, Councillor Welch.
Thank you for allowing me to speak on this, what is actually a very important motion. And actually, since the Labour government has taken its place in the House, this was one of the main things on the agenda and one of the first things that came to the House, in which we did say and call for the fact that there does need to be an immediate ceasefire, that the UNRWA needs to be allowed. We'll be starting to fund that again. That was ended, but now that will be funded again to go back in to get those humanitarian aid back into Gaza, and that we need to find a way to get to the point, because we can all say it, but we've got to get to the point where there is a two-state solution. And what we need to be really, really careful of. We've had suggestions that there aren't many Palestinians or Jewish people that live in Gedling. I don't know those statistics. I don't know how you know those statistics. But what I do know is we are currently living in a situation where there's a lot of divisiveness and there's a lot of hatred. And actually what we should be sitting here and saying that this is wrong. We're not going to use inflammatory language against one or the other, but what we are going to do is do our very, very best to drive peace on what is truly an horrendous, awful situation. And when I see the effects that it has had on children particularly, it is horrendous. It's absolutely heartbreaking. I'm pleased that Labour government have made a commitment towards it, but we all need to do more. And certainly in my role here as a Gedling Borough Council, but certainly in the House as a Parliament, I'll be doing everything I can. And actually this week I've already met the ambassador to Palestine, only this week, to discuss this very, very issue. So I can reassure people of Gedling and people within this chamber that myself and the MP for Gedling were in a room with him only this week, talking about how actually we as members of Parliament actually help bring about that peace in that area. But very, very highly emotive, some of the stuff that Councillor Whiting said, and I would just go back to saying we need to be really careful about the language we use about one person or the other, because the last thing that we should be held responsible as politicians is to create any more divisiveness that already exists. In fact, what we need to be is peacemakers, and that's what I believe. So we all have a role to play, every single person in this room. So I gladly support the amended motion that's in front of us, and thank you for bringing it here in the first place.
Thank you, Councillor Welch. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We brought forward the amendment because for a number of reasons. One of which is, and I need to challenge some of the things that Councillor Whiting has said. We wanted to remove the misleading and, quite frankly, downright inaccurate statistics that were quoted in the original motion. I, for one, and I'm sure most of my Labour colleagues will agree with me, I'm going to take with a pinch of salt any figures given to me by the terrorist group Hamas as regards casualties. And as for giving any credence to that letter in the Lancet, I mean that gives back of the fag packet methodology. It makes it look like science, but it's absolute nonsense that is quoted. And shame on you, Councillor Whiting, for using that statistic, because it's nonsense. And that's why I laughed, because it was absolute palpable nonsense. Now, everybody wants a resolution to what's going on in Gaza at the moment. Labour has been clear in its call for a ceasefire, but the starting point for that must be the release of the remaining hostages. Now, had that happened from the outset, I think there would have been a ceasefire a long time ago. So let's lay the blame where it lies. It lies with Hamas, a terrorist organisation. And you'll note that Councillor Whiting does not condemn Hamas. If you look at his social media, he never condemns Hamas. In fact, what he has called for, and as with many motions of this nature, it's often not the words that are on paper, it's what's said in the speeches. And the mask slipped there, Councillor Whiting, because what you called for in your speech was the destruction of Israel. Absolutely, you did. That is absolutely what you called for.
Can you? Mr. Mayor, point of order, please. Accuracy and defamation of a fellow member. I'm happy for the record to show, if we re-watch the YouTube video, that I never ever called for the destruction of Israel. So can I please request that Councillor Wilkinson withdraws?
I will not withdraw. I will not withdraw.
Right,
that was absolutely what you said.
Can we just stick to the business at hand here, please? Thank you for that, Councillor
Well,
Whiting.
the business at hand, Mr. Mayor, is what Councillor Whiting said, and
can you bring your comments to a close?
Okay. I'll leave it there.
Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I am pleased to see this as the recommendation, the amendment, and pleased to support it. I think sometimes everybody's got to take a step back. The world's gone mad. Wherever you see this violence, and some people blame it on religion. It's not religion that's causing this. It's a person's inhumanity to another person. We've got a place. We put the memorial up on the country park. The Holocaust Memorial, that was not just for the past war, it's for all sorts of horrible things that have gone off all over the place and needs to remind people. But it is truly, and I think it's been mentioned, it's frightening people. It's frightening. I remember when I was younger and looking at the stuff coming up in Ireland, and particularly the different nightly broadcasts. Was it Warren Point at some point where the 19 soldiers just blitzed off the road, and that becomes the norm, doesn't it? That's Ireland. Well, now it's down in Palestine, and it's down in in other places, in Ukraine, etc. Even to our own land last night, with that horrible attack, for whatever, on the Asian person who was walking through Manchester Airport. If he'd done wrong, he'd done wrong. But we police by consent in this country, and I think we all have to look at ourselves, take a lesson back, and I was really pleased to see it at County Hall last time. It wasn't the aggression, it wasn't the battle. Let's try and work together to get something solved. So I'll thoroughly back the amendment tonight. And, wherever we can, I know we've got 2 MPs now who will be reminded. And, when you've got 2 MPs that actually in with David Lammy, who's the foreign minister, and people like that, they're very important people that try and bring some sense together. Because here, the world will go mad and it will destroy itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Does anybody else wish to speak on this matter? Councillor Elwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As with the Ukraine war, which this council considered as a motion in March 2022, we need to acknowledge the suffering of the people of Gaza in this conflict. The casualty figures are a little bit unclear. Obviously, there's some dispute or uncertainty about the numbers, but there does seem to be a likelihood that about 40,000 civilian casualties have occurred in the conflict. And if we compare that with the civilian casualties in the Ukraine war, that's actually a lot more. In Ukraine, the civilian casualties, I gather, are about 11,000. So in magnitude, it's actually a greater catastrophe in that sense with regard to civilian casualties. Firstly, we must recognise that the ultimate cause of this conflict was the unjustified attack on Israeli citizens by Hamas on October 7th of last year, where 1,139 innocent people were killed. The loss of life in this conflict is horrendous. The 1,139 people who died on 7th of October, and also the 40,000 people who have died since then in Gaza. This is equivalent to about a third of the population of Gedling Borough. A ceasefire needs to happen now. We have at the country park the Holocaust Memorial Garden. Perhaps we also need to have some sort of memorial to remember those who have died in the Gaza conflict and other modern day conflicts. I would urge all members in the council chamber tonight to vote for this motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Elwood. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I would like to thank Councillor Whiting for accepting the amendment. The aim of the amendment was to strengthen a motion which could bring all peoples together, whether they be Jewish, Muslim, Palestinian, or indeed Ukrainian, or anybody else. It is a very sensitive matter. I do agree with Councillor Welsh, but there are times when we do have to be clear, and perhaps this is one of them. So this is a strong, positive motion, which I hope will support bringing the community in Gedling together to support all other communities for peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Councillor Nyhook.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to add to this that I accept the motion because I see it as bringing all sides together. I think we must never forget in a conflict there are always two sides and people on both sides will get hurt and damaged. It's very easy to just look at it from one point of view. My personal view is that this is an issue, as Councillor Walsh has said, that is being dealt with and should be dealt with in Parliament because it's one of national interest, not a local decision to be made. I myself am a daughter of a refugee. I know firsthand the trauma that comes from war. I was separated from my grandparents, never was able to meet them because of the Iron Curtain. My father suffered an injury from an American plane and had people on either side of him die during a shooting. That left a lasting damage in him. I heard the nightmares, I heard the screams, I knew what had happened to his friends. This reverberates down the generations, and we should be joining people together, not taking sides and making the conflict worse. It's all about unity and joining together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nyhook. Councillor Barnes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. All I would like to say is I'm in agreement with the amendment. We've all got to learn to live with one another, and we've got to learn to love one another, and we must try to get on with each other. So let's just hope.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Any further points anybody wishes to make? No. Councillor Whiting, can you close on this, which has now become the substantive motion?
I think Councillor Barnes has just expressed the sentiments of the whole chamber, Mr. Mayor, so I think Councillor Barnes's words are the best way that we can end this debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Whiting. Okay, we'll vote on this one then. All those in favour of the substantive amending motion? Thank you. Anybody against? Any abstentions? No. Okay, the substantive motion is now carried. Thank you. Thank you for everybody for attending this evening. and I would like to, that becomes the last item of the night. Wish you all a good summer break. I know some of you are getting away. Just to say why this was, very quickly, it was called on a Friday. I know it wasn't the best day, but other factors took over, and this was one of the days that we chose. So I appreciate those that have turned up this evening, and thank you very much for your commitment to this meeting tonight. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Thank you. This meeting is now closed.
Members of the Council and members of the public, please be upstanding for the worshipful, the Mayor of Gedling.